I've noticed something unusual happening in American homes lately. People are more organized than ever before, yet they feel more overwhelmed. Walk into any home and you'll see labeled bins, color-coded closets, and Pinterest-perfect pantries. But beneath all that organization, there's exhaustion. The problem isn't lack of systems, it's that organizing itself has become a new kind of clutter. We're buying containers to organize our containers, following complex methods that require constant maintenance, spending weekends reorganizing what we organized last month. If you're tired of feeling like you need to organize your organizing, this channel is for you. I share calm, practical ideas like this every week, and subscribing means you won't have to sort through endless organizing advice again. Clarity will just show up. I'm really glad you found your way here. Let's begin. After years of watching what actually creates calm in a home, 5 patterns become clear. Today, you'll discover 5 organizing habits that quietly create more work than peace, the hidden cost of popular organizing trends, and one shift in perspective that brings lasting calm without constant maintenance. Habit 1. Buying storage before removing what you don't need. The first habit appears helpful at first. When a space feels chaotic, the instinct is to head to Target or the Container Store. We buy bins, baskets, drawer dividers, and labels. We tell ourselves that once everything has a proper place, the overwhelm will disappear. But here's what experience reveals. Storage doesn't solve clutter. It just contains it. Every container becomes a decision delayed. A basket of items to sort through later quietly carries weight for months, sometimes years. That labeled bin in the garage holding things you might need someday becomes mental clutter even when you can't see it. The organizing industry in America has grown into a multi-billion-dollar market. We're constantly told that the solution to chaos is better storage solutions. But walk into any home filled with organizing products and notice what's actually happening. The containers are full, but so is the stress, because underneath all those bins and baskets are items that no longer serve the life being lived today. Old hobbies that were tried once, clothes from a different size or season of life, kitchen gadgets that seemed essential but were used twice, papers from years ago that feel too important to throw away but too overwhelming to sort through. The weight of these items doesn't disappear when they're neatly contained, it just becomes invisible for a while. Until you need to find something, until you move, until you try to use that closet or drawer and realize you're working around organized clutter rather than with useful items. The gentler approach is different. It starts with a simple question. What no longer fits my life as it is today? Not as it was 5 years ago. Not as you hope it might be someday. But today, right now, in this season of your life. When you remove what doesn't belong before organizing what remains, something shifts. You discover you don't need complex storage systems. You don't need to buy anything new. The space you already have becomes enough, often with room to spare. A closet that felt cramped suddenly has breathing room. A drawer that required careful Tetris-like arrangement to close now opens and closes easily. The kitchen counter that was covered in appliances you rarely used becomes workspace again. This isn't about being ruthless or minimalist. It's about being honest. Honest about what you actually use. Honest about what genuinely makes your daily life easier. Honest about the difference between what you think you should keep and what truly serves you. When only what's needed stays, storage happens naturally. You don't need a system that requires constant upkeep. You don't need to remember which bin holds what. You simply know where things are because there's space for them to exist without strategic planning. The homes that stay calm aren't the ones with the most sophisticated organizing systems. They're the ones that made peace with letting go first. They understood that you can't organize your way out of having too much. You can only simplify your way into having enough. And enough feels completely different from organized overwhelm. It feels light, easy, sustainable. The next habit might surprise you because it's one that many organizing influencers recommend, yet it creates the opposite of calm. Habit 2. Following complex organizing systems. The second habit feels productive and even admirable. You see it everywhere on social media. Color-coded labels, multi-step sorting routines, detailed inventory lists, matching containers arranged by size and category. These systems look beautiful online. They photograph well. They create that satisfying before and after transformation that gets thousands of likes. But in real homes, lived-in American homes where life happens daily, they often fail quietly. Here's why. A system that requires constant maintenance isn't sustainable. It's just another task competing for your time and attention. Think about the last organizing system you tried to implement. Maybe it was the one where every food item in your pantry needed to be transferred to a clear container and labeled. Or the closet system where clothes had to be arranged by color within each category. Or the playroom where every toy needed to return to its specific labeled bin. For the first week, maybe even the first month, it felt amazing. Everything had its place. The space looked magazine-ready. You felt accomplished. Then life happened. You came home tired from work and didn't have energy to transfer groceries into matching containers. Your kids played and mixed toys between bins. The seasons changed, and your closet organization no longer matched what you were actually wearing. Slowly, quietly, the system started breaking down. Not because you failed, but because the system itself was designed for a life that doesn't exist. A life where you have unlimited time and energy. A life where nothing changes. A life where maintaining organization is the primary goal rather than living. The organizing content you see online rarely shows what happens 3 months later. It doesn't show the exhaustion of keeping up appearances. It doesn't account for sick days, busy seasons at work, family visiting, or just the natural ebb and flow of normal life. Those beautiful systems often require more time to maintain than the chaos they replaced. You end up spending weekends reorganizing instead of resting. You feel guilty when things aren't perfect. You start avoiding spaces because you know they're not living up to the system you created. Meanwhile, the homes that actually stay calm use a completely different approach. Their systems are simple and forgiving. A drawer for kitchen utensils that doesn't care if the spatula touches the whisk. A coat closet where jackets hang without color coordination. A pantry where like items are grouped together but not obsessively contained and labeled. These simple systems adapt without effort. When life shifts, they shift with it. When seasons change, they accommodate naturally. When you're tired, they still work. Here's a gentle rule that helps. If it takes more than 30 seconds to put something away, the system is too complex. Think about that, 30 seconds. That's the difference between a system you'll actually use and one you'll eventually abandon. When putting away leftovers requires finding the right container, transferring the food, washing the original dish, and updating your inventory list, it's too much. When hanging up a coat requires finding the right section of the closet and the right type of hanger, it's too complicated. When cleaning up after your kids requires sorting toys into 12 different labeled bins, no one will maintain it. The American organizing industry has convinced us that complexity equals effectiveness, that more steps mean better results, that professional-looking systems are the only ones worth having. But the opposite is true. Simplicity is what lasts. A hook by the door that always catches your keys. A basket that holds whatever needs to go upstairs. A drawer that contains miscellaneous items without judgment. These aren't Instagram-worthy, but they work with life instead of against it. They require no maintenance, just use, and that's the kind of calm that actually lasts. The third habit ahead reveals something even more subtle, and it's hiding in plain sight in most organized homes. Habit 3. Organizing everything instead of editing ruthlessly. This habit is the hardest to notice because it masquerades as success. When everything in your home has a designated spot, it feels like progress. It looks like you've solved the problem. Walk through an organized home and you'll see it. Drawers filled with neatly arranged items, closets where every piece has a hanger, pantries organized by category with everything visible and accessible. From the outside, it looks perfect. But here's the quiet truth that experience teaches. Organizing everything means keeping everything. Let's walk through what this actually looks like in American homes. The junk drawer that's now neatly divided with organizers holding expired warranties, mystery keys, dried-up pens, and instruction manuals for appliances you no longer own. It's organized, yes, but it's organized clutter. The closet where every piece of clothing has a hanger, including the bridesmaid dress from 8 years ago, the jeans from 2 sizes ago, and the interview suit you haven't worn since changing careers. Everything is visible and categorized, but half of it no longer fits your life. The garage with labeled bins stacked neatly on shelves containing camping gear you used once, sports equipment from abandoned hobbies, and holiday decorations you've replaced but couldn't bring yourself to discard. The weight of these items doesn't come from how they're stored, it comes from the decisions that remain unmade. Every time you open that organized drawer, closet, or storage area, your brain has to process everything inside it. Even items you're not actively looking at require mental energy. Your mind knows they're there. It knows you're keeping things you don't use. It knows that someday, somehow, you'll need to deal with them. That knowing creates a background hum of stress that organizing systems can't eliminate. They can only make it prettier. This is where American organizing culture has led us astray. We've been taught that the goal is to find a place for everything, to maximize our space, to use every inch efficiently, but no one asks the more important question: should everything you own still be in your home? We organize baby clothes our children outgrew years ago instead of passing them on to someone who needs them now. We create filing systems for papers we'll never reference again instead of keeping only what's legally necessary. We arrange kitchen gadgets in deep drawers with special organizers instead of acknowledging we only use 5 of them regularly. The homes that feel truly calm have made a different choice. They've embraced gentle honesty over perfect organization. They ask a simple question about each item. Does this still serve the life I'm living today? Not the life they lived 5 years ago when they were in a different job, a different phase of parenting, a different stage entirely. Not the life they imagine they might live someday if circumstances change. But today, right now, in this actual life, when the answer is no, they let go. Not with guilt or drama, but with quiet gratitude for what that item provided when it was needed, and peace about releasing it now that it's not. This shift changes everything. A closet doesn't need complex organization when it only holds clothes you actually wear and feel good in. A kitchen doesn't require elaborate systems when the cabinets contain only tools and dishes you regularly use. A garage doesn't need a label maker when it stores only seasonal items and equipment for current hobbies. The organization becomes invisible because it's intuitive. You know where things are because there's room for them. You can find what you need because you're not searching through items you don't. But this requires something our organizing culture rarely discusses: the willingness to make decisions, to choose, to release, to say this served me then but not now, to trust that if you ever need something similar again, you'll figure it out. Americans are particularly susceptible to just-in-case thinking. We keep things because we might need them someday, because someone gave them to us, because we paid good money for them, because letting go feels wasteful. But keeping items we don't use isn't thrift, it's postponed waste. The waste happens when we buy it, not when we release it. When you edit ruthlessly, organizing becomes almost effortless, often unnecessary. What remains simply fits. There's no need for complex systems, special containers, or weekend projects. There's just enough space, enough simplicity, and enough ease. And that's what calm actually feels like. There are 2 more habits worth understanding. The 4th one is particularly common right now. Habit 4. Treating organizing as a one-time project. The 4th habit creates a cycle that many Americans recognize intimately. You set aside a Saturday, maybe even an entire weekend. You're determined this time. You're going to tackle that closet, that garage, that kitchen, maybe even the whole house. You buy supplies, watch motivational videos, maybe even hire a professional organizer or follow a popular method. You work hard, really hard, sorting and purging and creating systems. By the end, you feel exhausted but accomplished. The space looks transformed. You take photos. You promise yourself you'll never let it get bad again. Then life continues. Within weeks, sometimes days, you notice small things slipping. A coat draped over a chair instead of hung up. Mail piling on the counter. Dishes accumulating by the sink. At first, it's no big deal. You're just busy. You'll get to it. But slowly, quietly, the chaos creeps back. 3 months later, maybe 6, you look around and realize the space has returned to its previous state. The bins you bought are still there, but they're overflowing or empty. The system you created requires more maintenance than you can sustain. You feel defeated, like you failed at something that should be simple. So you start planning the next big organizing project, believing that this time, with a better system or more effort, it will finally stick. This happens because of one fundamental misunderstanding. Calm isn't created once, it's maintained gently, daily. The homes you see that always look pulled together, the ones that feel peaceful when you visit, they didn't get that way through dramatic weekend overhauls. They got that way through small, consistent moments of noticing and adjusting. Their owners understand something crucial. Organizing isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a rhythm you live with. It's not about perfection, it's about gentle course correction. Think about other areas of life where this principle is obvious. You don't brush your teeth once really well and expect them to stay clean for months. You don't exercise intensively for a weekend and expect to maintain fitness indefinitely. You don't cook one massive meal and consider yourself fed for the season. These things require regular, sustainable practices. Yet somehow we've convinced ourselves that our homes work differently, that if we just organize hard enough, thoroughly enough, perfectly enough, we can achieve lasting order through sheer force of effort. But homes are living spaces. They change as we use them. They respond to the rhythms of our daily lives. A home that stays peaceful doesn't need dramatic interventions. It needs small, consistent moments woven into everyday routines. A surface cleared before bed taking just 2 minutes. A donation bag kept near the closet, making it easy to release items as you notice them. A quiet pause before bringing something new inside, asking if there's room and need for it. One item put away while waiting for coffee to brew, mail sorted immediately instead of piled for later. These aren't tasks to add to an overwhelming to-do list. They're rhythms that become second nature, like brushing your teeth or making your bed. The American culture of productivity makes this difficult to embrace. We want dramatic results. We want transformation stories. We want to see clear progress that justifies our effort. Small daily actions feel insignificant compared to big weekend projects. But here's what years of living teach. The weekend project creates temporary change that requires constant energy to maintain. The small daily rhythm creates lasting ease that requires almost no thought to sustain. One is exhausting, the other is calming. Consider what changes when organizing is understood as a gentle daily practice instead of a periodic project. You stop dreading it because there's nothing to dread. There's no overwhelming task looming in the future. There's just this moment, this small action, this one thing returning to its place. You stop feeling guilty because there's no standard of perfection to fall short of. There's just enough maintained with ease. You stop comparing your home to others because you're not trying to achieve a specific look. You're just supporting your life as it actually unfolds. This shift also changes your relationship with organizing content and advice. You stop searching for the perfect system because you realize your life is the system. You stop collecting organizing ideas you'll implement someday because someday is actually today, in small moments. You stop feeling like you're failing because you understand that maintaining a peaceful home isn't about never having mess. It's about having a relationship with your space that allows for life while gently returning to calm. The truth that takes time to accept is this: there is no final organized state. Your home will never be done because your life isn't done. Seasons change, needs evolve, priorities shift. The goal isn't to achieve permanent order. It's to develop a sustainable rhythm that works with your life instead of against it. When organizing is seen as a destination, it always feels unfinished. When it's understood as a gentle daily practice, calm simply exists. And the final habit, the one most people miss, is coming next. Habit 5. Seeking inspiration instead of listening to your home. The fifth habit is the most common and perhaps the most damaging, especially in our social media age. You know this pattern. You're scrolling through Instagram or Pinterest or YouTube. You see a beautifully organized pantry with matching containers and perfect labels, a closet arranged by color with coordinating hangers, a garage that looks like a showroom, a playroom where every toy has its designated spot. You save the post, you screenshot the idea, you add products to your cart, you tell yourself that once you implement this system, once your space looks like that, you'll finally feel calm. But here's what quietly happens. The more inspiration you consume, the heavier everything feels. Every beautiful home you see online represents someone else's life, someone else's needs, someone else's version of calm. It was created for a different family, a different schedule, a different set of priorities. That influencer with the perfect pantry might have a completely different relationship with cooking than you do. They might have more time, more budget, different dietary needs, or simply different values about what matters. That organized playroom might belong to someone whose children are older or younger or fewer in number. That garage might be owned by someone who doesn't park cars inside it, or who has a workshop elsewhere, or who simply uses their space differently than you do. But when you see these images, your brain doesn't process that context. It just sees the gap between their space and yours. It creates a standard that was never meant for your life. You start believing that calm looks a specific way, that organization requires specific products, that your home should function like someone else's home. You begin organizing for the camera, for the potential Instagram post, for how it might look to others, instead of organizing for your actual daily life. And that disconnect is exhausting. This is where American organizing culture has become particularly problematic. We've turned home organization into performance, into something to display, compare, and judge. The organizing industry benefits from this because it creates endless consumption. If your home doesn't look like the inspiration you saw, you must need different products, a different system, more containers, better labels, the latest organizing trend. But here's the truth that no one selling organizing products wants you to understand. Your home doesn't need to look like anyone else's to serve you well. Your home needs to support your life, exactly as it is. Not the life you think you should be living. Not the life that looks good in photos. Not the life that follows popular organizing principles, but your actual, messy, imperfect, real life. Maybe that means your coffee mugs live next to your coffee maker instead of in a cabinet because that's where you use them. Maybe your kids' shoes pile by the front door instead of being neatly stored in a closet because that's what works for your family. Maybe your spices aren't alphabetized because you cook instinctively and alphabetizing would slow you down. The gentlest question to ask isn't, how do other people organize this? It's, what does this space need to feel easy for me? That answer is already inside you. It doesn't require research, comparison, or validation from organizing experts. You already know what frustrates you about your home. You already know which areas work smoothly and which ones don't. You already know what would make your daily routines easier. The wisdom is there, but it gets buried under all the external input about what organizing should look like. When you stop consuming organizing inspiration and start listening to your actual experience, something shifts. You notice that the Pinterest perfect linen closet system you tried to implement doesn't work because you don't fold towels that way in real life. You realize that the elaborate meal planning system creates more stress than the problem it was solving. You understand that your coat closet works better with hooks than hangers, because that's how your family actually uses it. These aren't failures. They're insights about how your home wants to function. A home organized to fit the life inside it, not the life imagined online, operates completely differently. It's not impressive to photograph. It might not have matching containers or color-coordinated anything. It probably wouldn't get featured in an organizing magazine, but it works, smoothly, easily, without constant maintenance or guilt. You can find what you need. Your daily routines flow naturally. The space supports your life instead of demanding your attention. This requires letting go of comparison, which is incredibly difficult in our connected world. It means unfollowing accounts that make you feel inadequate. It means trusting your own judgment about what works. It means accepting that your version of organized might look completely different from anyone else's. It means defining calm for yourself instead of adopting someone else's definition. But when you do this, when you truly listen to your home and your life instead of external voices, organizing becomes simple. Not easy necessarily, but simple. You stop overthinking because you're not trying to recreate someone else's system. You stop second-guessing because you're responding to your actual needs. You stop feeling behind because you're not chasing a moving target of organizing trends. You just live in your space, adjust what isn't working, and maintain what is. And that calm, that quiet ease, that's what organizing was supposed to provide all along. It just got lost somewhere between buying storage solutions and creating picture-perfect pantries. The answer was never out there in inspiring content. It was always right here, in your home, waiting for you to listen. Which of these 5 habits feels most familiar in your own home right now? Maybe you recognize yourself in the storage buying cycle, constantly looking for the right container to solve the wrong problem. Maybe you've spent weekends implementing complex systems that felt impossible to maintain. Maybe you've organized everything instead of editing honestly about what truly belongs. Maybe you're exhausted from treating organization as a project instead of a gentle practice. Or maybe you've been drowning in inspiration while ignoring what your space is actually telling you. There's no need to change everything at once. There's no perfect organizing method waiting to be discovered. Simply noticing which habit resonates is already the first step toward something different. If this brought clarity or relief, share which habit you recognize most. Many others are quietly experiencing the same thing, feeling the same weight. Sometimes the most powerful shift comes from realizing we don't need more organizing advice, more storage solutions, or more inspiration. We need less of everything else, less consumption, less comparison, less complexity, just enough simplicity to breathe again. At this stage of life, your home should simplify your days, not complicate them. It should support the life you're actually living, not the life you think you should be living. True calm doesn't come from perfect systems, matching containers, or Instagram-worthy spaces. It comes from gentle honesty about what truly belongs and what's ready to be released. It comes from simple rhythms instead of weekend projects. It comes from listening to your home instead of comparing it to others. If this video brought a sense of relief, perspective, or permission to do things differently, consider subscribing to Simple Years. Practical, calming ideas like this are shared every week, so you won't need to search through endless organizing advice anymore. No complex systems, no expensive products, no impossible standards. Just gentle wisdom for creating a home that feels like rest instead of work. Clarity will simply arrive. Thank you for being here and for trusting your own path toward calm. I'll see you in the next one.